about this without getting heated. Hi and welcome. My name is Trinity. I read a little over 30 books in 2025, and so this is my list of my top 5 reads of 2025. When I was trying to narrow down these books from the 30 or so that I read, I was focusing on 4 main factors. 1. Was it an emotional read? Because if words on a paper can make you cry, then I'm pretty sure you have a good book in your hands. Number 2, reflection. It makes me look back at my life in some type of way. There's something I can take away from this book and kind of apply it to my own life or relate it to my own life. 3, shock factor. The book was exceedingly better than I thought it was going to be and literally stayed with my soul. Number 4, and this applies to probably more books than I'd like to say it does, but I could talk someone's ear off about this book. More specifically, if someone said that they enjoyed to read, I would bring up these books. These are the books that I'm keeping in the back of my pocket, like, did you read this? Did you read that? Did you read this one? What about this? So that's kind of the factors that I took into considering when I was narrowing down my list from 30 to only 5 books. These first 4 are in no particular order. These were all 4 I enjoyed. The last one is the best read of the year, though. So I just wanted to clarify that the first 4 I'm about to go over is in no particular order at all. At the end of 2024, I kept seeing this one author in particular named T. Kingfisher, and I told myself in 2025 I am going to check out her work. So I think it was around January, actually, it wasn't even that long into 2025, that I was strolling through Barnes & Nobles, and I saw that she had a novella, and it was like a fantasy novella, and I am a fantasy girly at heart. I grew up reading fantasy, sci-fi, like dystopian, and that's always been my like comfort genre. I figured the best way to basically dip my toe into this author's work was going to be fantasy. So I picked up Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher, and I was taken aback. I want to point out that this book is very short, so of course I finished it in a pretty quick manner. It's only 128 pages, and it is a Sleeping Beauty reimagining. For some reason, when I picked up this book, I thought it was Rapunzel retelling, but that's because of these towers in the back. That's actually a castle. It was not what I thought I was walking into, and once I grasped that this was a Sleeping Beauty reimagining, not retelling, because a reimagining and retelling are 2 different things. In short, a retelling is basically, it stays to the original intent and context and meaning of the story, where a reimagining kind of takes some inspiration and then just runs with it. And this book just ran with the Sleeping Beauty. Let me tell you a little bit about it. In this book, you follow Toadling, and she was kidnapped from her crib as a newborn and switched with a changeling named Fayette. Toadling was then taken into the Fey world and raised by these toad-like creatures, and learns how to use magic, and more specifically how to transform herself into a toad. Time passes differently from the Fey world to the human world, so as Toadling aged, Fayette hadn't. So they actually send Toadling back to what was supposed to be her christening, but is Fayette's christening, and send her to basically bestow the blessing upon the child. But it's not the blessing that you would think, and it does not go as planned at all, and that's basically where the whole issue starts. It's a story that really showcases that the choices that we make, even if we think they are the right decisions in life, can have long-lasting effects on others and ourselves. This book was such a great twist on the Sleeping Beauty story that I really enjoyed it. I feel like it gave me a fair taste of T. Kingfisher, to the point that I'm looking forward to reading more of her work in 2026. I actually currently have Hemlock and Silver waiting for me on my Libby app, so that will probably be one of the first books that I start in 2026. I had to wait 4 months for this, and so I'm very excited to go into that as maybe my first book of the year. I don't know yet. And that was Thornhedge by T. Kingfisher. Know that this next book I'm about to talk about is YA, but to be fair, I read the original trilogy when it was came out 10 years ago, and that would be Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. If you are unaware of what the Hunger Games books are about, these books are set in a dystopian future where children from the ages of 12 to 18 are handpicked from each district. There's 12, and 2 are picked from each district, 1 boy and 1 girl. And those are called tributes, and those tributes are sent into an arena until only 1 is left. Sunrise on the Reaping is the second prequel to come out to the Hunger Games trilogy, the first being The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. This entire book revolves around the 50th Hunger Games, which is also known as a quarter quell. It is the second quarter quell. They do it every 25 years, and that means that double the amount of tributes are sent into the arena. So instead of it just being two, one boy, one girl, there's a unique four, two boys and two girls. It plays on themes of propaganda and the power of media. We followed Hamish Abernathy as he basically fights in the arenas, making enemies and friends inside and outside. This book was a wild ride. I couldn't put it down. My head was literally spinning, and every single plot twist and every single emotional tear-jerking scene. I heard that this book was getting a movie adaptation, and I don't know if that really makes me happy or not. I don't know. We'll see as they come out with more. Maybe the official trailer will really hook me in. I have no idea. But as of now, I'm staying far away from any news of this movie adaptation because I don't know if I can handle it. I love this book too much, and sometimes movie adaptations aren't done very well. So we will see as that unfolds if I end up watching it or not. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Alright, now we're going to be heading into the nonfiction books. Next two books that I'm going to be talking about were part of a series I did from September to November-ish, and that was Reading Only Faith Womack recommended books. Most of the books were pretty good, and I actually did enjoy all of them that I read, but these two were phenomenal. The first one we're going to be talking about is God of All Things by Andrew Wilson, Rediscovering the Sacred in an Everyday World. This book basically takes everyday items and elements that are seen in the Bible and connects them to a much deeper theology. My favorite chapter is chapter 11. So to use my favorite chapter as an example, chapter 11, it says that all 5 of the major covenants in the Old Testament, via Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, and David, are associated with vines. Each chapter is very short, but it gives so much information. And each chapter is like that. He takes something so simple, something so everyday, and then turns it into this theology moment. Next time I read this, I definitely will be taking a more studious approach and taking notes with it. I did dog ear a little bit. I did not have tabs for this book, otherwise it would be glittering right now. This next book that I'm about to talk about is one of those books that I had read probably a page or two and then had to sit and just process, and that would be Happy Lives by Melissa Dougherty. So this book covers the history and the influence that New Thought has had on Christian lives without them even knowing it sometimes, whether it's in their inner circles or even sometimes churches. The author argues that New Thought is more sneaky than New Age. They are two different movements with the same ideology, but it's because New Thought claims to be Christian. They will use the same jargon as biblical Christianity while meaning something completely different. The author goes over interviews with people who attend New Thought churches, as well as the jargon differences between the New Thought and biblical Christianity, and a lot more. This book definitely got my brain working and those wheels were turning, and it just had me thinking about life and where in some aspects I didn't even sometimes really realize that that would classify as New Thought. I didn't really have a word to put on some of these ideologies at first until I came across this book. Now, the last book that I'm going to talk about is my number 1 book all year long. I already have plans to reread this book because it was that good. It hit all 4 factors for me. It was an emotional read. I was literally crying over my dishes listening to this book. Definitely hit the reflection, and it hit the shock factor with how much controversy is over this book still to this day, 23 years later, and I can definitely talk your ear off about this book. So my top read for 2025 is Alone at Dawn by Dan Schilling and Laurie Chapman Longfriends. If you don't know what Alone at Dawn is about, and you don't know the name John A. Chapman, well, let me tell you about him. This book revolves around the devastating events that took place on March 4th, 2002. When U.S. Air Force Combat Controller John A. Chapman and a handful of Navy SEALs were struggling to take a summit in a desperate bid, outnumbered by Al-Qaeda fighters. After Chapman was gravely injured, he lost consciousness. The SEAL leader, believing him to be dead, called for a retreat. Chapman would regain consciousness and fight to his literal last breath, saving the lives of 23 other comrades in arms at the cost of his own life. The book tells the life of John, as well as him enlisting, going through training, meeting his wife, having a family, up into his last deployment, and until the very date, March 4th, 2002. If there's going to be any book that you read out of these 5, let it be Alone at Dawn. Let John A. Chapman's name be known. He is a Medal of Honor recipient. His name should be known with the other Medal of Honor recipients. So please check out Alone at Dawn. It is a phenomenal book. I really enjoyed it. The audiobook was good too. I went between reading and the audiobook, so I know both are very good and engaging. Like I said, I plan to do another rereading, so go check that out. With all that being said, these were my top 2025 books. What did you guys read that you enjoyed? Let me know down in the comments, and I will see you guys in 2026. God bless. Bye!